Well, good Monday morning to you. It is the Gashouse Gang with Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler. I'm Matt Pauley. It's great to be with you. It is Cardinals winter warm-up week. It's Cardinals Caravan week. The Cardinals are coming to town, and it's time to start the new season. Bernie, doesn't it feel like we have officially flipped the calendar? It's a new year and a new baseball season.
Absolutely. The winter warm-up is kind of like the first milepost, if you will, and looking forward to it. I mean, I'll be curious to see the attendance, if that's going to kind of fall in line with some of the downward trends here the last couple of years. But it's still a very passionate baseball town, and I've talked about this before, and I'll be brief. I think people confuse the fact that the Cardinals in 2024, sold fewer tickets, had more no-shows, TV ratings were down. They confuse that with the level of interest in the team. The level in the level of the interest level in this team remains huge. It's just that fans, as is their right, have chosen to kind of stay away or not watch as many games and call it a form of protest. But I deal with people all the time, like on my YouTube channel, who are telling me, "Oh, yeah, people don't care about baseball in the town as much as they used to." It's just flat out wrong, and frankly, it's the opinion of an imbecile. So the passion is strong, but if fans are upset about something, what recourse do they have? Maybe they don't go to as many games. This is not that complicated. This is still a massively heralded baseball town, no matter how many games they win or lose.
There's no question. I mean, there were, some people that I really respect nationally and some also locally. I don't want to sit here and call people out. It's beside the point. But, one said,
tell me who they are, Tom. I'll do it.
You guys know who they are. Well, Greg Amsinger on MLB Network last year calls out Cardinals fans. Like, I'm disappointed in Cardinals fans not showing up for the games. Like, Greg, come on. Like, read the room. The fact that they didn't show up to the game is a statement. I mean, it was clear as day, and the team totally understood it, and that's why they've actually accelerated this process of getting this thing reset. And the other one, a dear friend of ours, I love to death, and he knows this because we interacted on Twitter about it last year. Randy Carricker called the fans spoiled, and I disagreed. I don't think the fans are spoiled. I think that it's been said from the very beginning that the standard is this team makes the playoffs and chases a world championship. And when they fall short, the fans get pissed off. And that's okay. Look, the best fan bases in America, or we'll say the most rabid fan bases in America, Kevin, are the exact same way, by the way.
Yeah, but you have to be a rich kid to notice losing a Porsche, right? Because if you're not rich, you don't have a Porsche. There are people in this town that are 40 years old that don't remember this team being bad.
Yeah.
They don't remember a time. They don't remember anything really before the late 90s or early 2000s. And by the way, remember it as an adult experiencing sports as a grown person, right? There's a difference when you're right. I think, good point.
So I'm 42, and the team that I talk about this all the time, the team that I fell in love with, and the team I wouldn't be sitting here right now if not for the team, was the 96 Cardinals. That's when my baseball fanaticism began. I was born in 1982, so I went to games with my dad and things like that in the early 90s, sure, but it was to your point, 96 for a 42-year-old Matt Pauley is when his Cardinals fandom really began.
And by the way, spoiled doesn't mean you don't deserve what you should get. Because the team has made that promise over and over again, right? The team says all the time, this is what we are. So they should deliver that. They're a business. So spoiled or not, to me, those are different things. Any fan of a team like the Lions would say that any fandom like the Yankees fans or Dodgers fans or even Cardinals fans would say, yeah, you know what? It is a little bit spoiled when you're mad that 83 wins is just not good enough. But it's not. It's a reality. That's true. But there are fandoms around the sport, around all sports, that would be like, man, 83 is not that bad. It's not like you guys just lost 100 games like we've done 10 times in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
right. So it is relative, but it doesn't mean they're wrong. Fans are correct to demand what the standard is presented to them by the team.
I think it's a good talking point. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but it is a good talking point because the word spoiled to me means uneducated, not educated about game. Like Bernie, a perfect example is this Nolan Arenado stuff. You know, the fans aren't like, hey, you can't trade Nolan Arenado. He's a superstar. Like, there is none of that going on. Fans are completely locked in and understand the situation. There's been no protest. There's been a lot of silence, which is a little irritating, but, you know, kind of just sitting there waiting and understanding of the situation.
I agree. And I think Cardinals fans are have been pretty patient about the young players, kind of the false starts that we've seen from some of their key young guys, and Lars Nootbaar, who's actually a really, really good player, but I couldn't blame any fan for being impatient with him or just kind of annoyed with him because he doesn't he's not in the lineup enough because of a sequence of injuries. There's all kinds of ways where, you know, you can take a look at it, whether it's the Arenado situation, other things I've mentioned, and I could go on and on, but, you know, I think fans actually have maintained their cool about a lot of things. Can I just say this really quick? I think there's a fine line between being spoiled and maybe not fully appreciating how great it's been. I think there's a fine line. Like, can I give you an example? And this is very quick. From 1996, when Bill DeWitt and his partners bought the team, through 2022, the Pujols year, Goldie and Arenado, you know, in the top 3, MVP voting, all that good stuff. The Cardinals had the 4th best winning percentage in baseball, number 3 in the National League. They were number 1 in the National League, number one in the National League, and 2nd in the majors in postseason wins and postseason games played in. So I know that their level of postseason success has dipped. I get that, right? Yeah. That's a change from the past. But there are times I sit here and I'm like, well, 1996 through 2022, that's a long stretch of baseball. And basically over that stretch, you've had a top 4, top 3 baseball team in the majors. And okay, they've had a downturn. And is it their fault? Yes, it is.
Yep.
What I don't like, and this has nothing to do with people who are upset now, they're not spoiled. What I don't like, however, is that there's an element of the fan base, and I can't say how many, it's clearly not all fans or even a majority of fans, but they would almost have us believe that these sell the team people.
Yeah.
As if there's any justification for like screaming at current ownership to sell the team. Yeah. When from 1996 through 2022, the Cardinals, and it's actually better than this, they were a top 5 Major League Baseball franchise. The people that act like everything they've done, like it's all trash. They've destroyed the franchise. No, they haven't destroyed the franchise. They have to rebuild in a soft way, which, oh, by the way, happens to freaking everybody, okay? Just about everybody in sports. So anyway,
good call.
That's not being spoiled, but I think maybe there is a lack of perspective. Is that a good way to put it?
That's a better way to put it.
Let me throw this to Kevin or Matt real quick, because I will break that 96 to 22. Let me break it down just a little bit, because in 2016, let's say, they don't make the playoffs and the Cubs win the World Series. That's bad for Cardinals fans to like take, but it happens. So in 2016, if you said the fans are spoiled then, and if they're ranting and raving, you would say, yeah, you're right. I mean, they won in 11, in 12, in 13, they go back to the World Series. In 14, they're in the NLCS. In 15, they lost in the division series, but they're back in the playoffs. I mean, they're in it every year. They're hanging bunting at Busch Stadium every single year, but they missed 3 years in a row. Then they lose to the Nationals after beating the Braves. They get swept. And then, it's like every single year, like it started to wear on fans, I think.
Right.
And so for them to show their teeth right now is understandable. I get that totally. Right. Wouldn't you say, guys?
Yeah, 100%. You say it all the time, Tom. Like they were sending a message. Even though the team was competitive last year, even though the team was sitting there in a playoff spot for much of the year, anybody who looked at it said, okay, you know what, this doesn't look like a Cardinals team that has a legit chance of making a World Series run. And following that up with the terrible season, there's discontent from fans. And The only place I would disagree with you guys a little bit, like I do hear from people who are 100% opposed to trading Nolan Arenado. I do hear from people who are not understanding of the reset and the rebuild and things like that. I don't think those people speak for a majority of the fan base, but I do think those people are out there. I think people are Cardinals fans right now are finding various reasons to be upset with the organization.
And there are a lot of
that.
Yeah, they have a lot of reasons to feel that way. Yeah. But again, I also just believe in trying to have some perspective about the enduring time period that this franchise has been owned by Bill DeWitt. I mean, it's been pretty outstanding for most of the way, but downturn, and we're not used to a downturn. We don't know how to handle it that well. We're not going to be pleased with that because there's been a strong partnership. The Cardinals, we even said, hey, these fans come out over 3 million strong every year, and we take that, we put that in the team. We do our part, they do their part. We have a great relationship. Well, in recent seasons, because of the downturn, first in the postseason, then the last 2 seasons, 22nd in winning percentage. I don't blame fans at all for thinking, well, we have held up our end. So they kind of failed here recently to hold up their end of this partnership. So it's no matter how you kind of want to portray it. I mean, yeah, there's a little strain in the relationship, but I don't want to call fans spoiled. Lack of perspective, perhaps, absolutely, but that doesn't mean you're spoiled. But some people, of course, because we're in the lead, we're in the era of social media, like rules everyone's lives, and it's a performance art. So you can't just have an opinion that's strong but nuanced by saying, yeah, they've. Last 2 years, very disappointing. But the first 22 years, look at how high they were in all these categories. You can't say that because then that makes you a shill. That makes you a towel boy, And there's no such thing as nuance anymore.
Well, let me carry some water. Hang on.
Exactly. And so the Cardinals have a couple years that have been disappointing, and it's not like, well, my opinion. I admire Bill DeWitt, but he let things slip. Like the thing that was his number one thing, farm system player development. He let it slip. Okay, that's his fault. But how do you go from that? How do you go from that to going on social media screaming at the top of your lungs every 5 minutes, sell the team? How do you go from, Bill DeWitt was disappointing the way he let the foundation of the franchise slip, and now they're rebuilding it, farm system player development. But because of that, he should sell the team? Really? You want to go talk to the fans of the Pittsburgh Pirates for a couple minutes? And I can name a bunch of franchises. So that's what I hate. I hate the extreme. I hate the extreme stuff where there's no perspective whatsoever.
You are watching and listening to the Gashouse Gang from KMOX. Thomas Gonzalez checks in from Colorado. You talk about a team that's taken it on the chin a few times. To put things in perspective, with Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler, Matt Pauley, I'm Tom Ackerman. Before we go any further on our Cardinals discussion, Bernie, tell us about our sponsor, Seliga Heating and Cooling.
Tom, you always do this. You throw it at me, which is good. When I just went off a rant, so it's like I need to be cooled down by Seliga. So anyway, I appreciate it. Seliga Heating and Cooling has been serving St. Louis families since 1927. The same family, the Seligas, 4 generations of them have been serving St. Louis families. I love that because I come from a business or family that own a business, and I know what that's like, and I know that it means a lot to see your name on the trucks or on the big sign outside the business, whatever it may be. Dan Seliga is doing a great job upholding the high standards of this American standard heating and air conditioning dealer. Seliga can do it all for you, the things you would imagine, but they have a long list of services. So go to SeligaHeatingandCooling.com to find out more. I would also urge you to take a look at the Priority Club. It's a maintenance program. It's got a lot of benefits. Preventative maintenance can save you money over a long period of time. Also, if you know that everything's functioning as it should, that safety gives you peace of mind. You can extend with the maintenance. You can extend the equipment life. You can trust the service. They're 100%. We have saved money by being members of the Priority Club. You also get priority scheduling. So anyway, financing options available subject to credit approval. Go to SeligaHeatingandCooling.com. You'll see the phone number there, SeligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
Bernie, thanks very much. Bernie was on Sports on a Sunday Morning with me yesterday when I read the comment from one of our listeners wondering why we're not having Chaim Bloom on Sports on a Sunday Morning and why we're giving Mo all the love, et cetera, et cetera. And look, I understand the comment, just to let people know kind of what's going on behind the scenes. So Chaim has not done a radio interview yet. Of course, we'd love to be the first. And, it's by design. I mean, he is operating the Cardinals development system right now. He is deep into revamping the minor leagues. John Mozeliak is still the president of baseball operations. And when we are able to land an interview with Chaim, and I would imagine, Matt, the countdown to opening day would probably be that landing spot. It's the Cardinals radio network. Now, here's some good news, is that we have received clearance, you have, to talk to Rob Cerfolio. So the man who is basically the team's farm director and the number 2 underneath Chaim is going to be on with you and Mike Claiborne.
Yeah, that's going to be coming up this Thursday, actually. We get about a half hour with them. We're going to be recording it over at Cardinal Nation at about 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. And I'm excited because you look at all the names and individuals that are a big part of what the Cardinals are going to become here moving forward. And Rob Cerfolio is right there as a very, very important hire. And just the chance to be able to get to talk to him is going to be good. So he did a newspaper interview, I think, with Lynn Worthy, but he hasn't done any broadcast stuff yet. So 30 minutes with Rob Cerfolio coming up on Thursday.
Nice. Looking forward to that.
Great stuff.
Yeah, very, very good. And Kevin, you've been, as Bernie has, behind the scenes on all of our dealings, trying to work with the Cardinals on these things. They've been very accommodating. But what is your feeling on Chaim Bloom? I know that you agreed during the press conference. We got a little bit of Chaim Bloom, and everyone's kind of like, ooh,
leaning in,
listening to, and then it just ended, so it just is what it is.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be a constant presence, right? I don't think we need to see Chaim Bloom talking every month or every few weeks. But you know what? I think it'd be good for fans to hear the new leader, to hear the guy that's going to be taken over, to hear some of the vision, even if he's not commenting on the current major league roster, because that's not his purview right now, right? That's Mo's job, and he's doing other things. But it would be okay to hear from that man, because look, what people are buying right now is hope and potential, right? I mean, we're talking about playing the young guys. We're talking about some more prospects. We're talking about improving player development. Well, who's in charge of that? It'd be nice, especially because it's not somebody that's never been in the spotlight. Chaim Bloom's been the boss, and he's going to be the boss in a year. So I wouldn't say that he should be regularly available, that he should be doing radio hits all the time. But I would say that it would be good to do a round and then maybe put it off again until somewhere, maybe around the draft or something like that, to evaluate the system. But I know that fans that I talk to want to hear from him.
Yeah, it's a good thing that they want to hear from him. That's the thing. I think the Cardinals maybe are. Listen, I understand this. Like Chaim Bloom's a very principled man. Everything that I've learned about him through people who know him best, people I trust. So he's a very ethical, principled man. And he just believes that it would be inappropriate for him to be sort of out there in front when John Mozeliak is still running the team, because it would create some awkwardness potentially because of Mo's. Let's face it, you don't have to tiptoe around it. He's unpopular these days, and it's a situation where Chaim doesn't want to do anything to just kind of mess with that. As far as like, oh, we hear Chaim Bloom, man. I like hearing him more than this guy Mozeliak. See, that it sets up that type of dynamic. So I admire his principles. That said, I think that as the season goes on and we get closer to passing the baton, Mo to Chaim Bloom, I think people are going to really want to hear from Chaim Bloom because it's getting to be go time. And the other thing is that I think the Cardinals need to recognize is that there is fan relations value and public relations value, especially as you get closer to the handoff towards the end of next season. There's a lot of value in terms of rebuilding interest in your franchise when you let your customers hear the new guy, and they're going to like him because he's a likable guy. So that's about all I got to say about that.
Yeah,
which was plenty.
I think it's interesting that he really doesn't even have a title yet with the Cardinals. I think he's technically still advisor to John Mozeliak. They could have done something where, because Mike Gersh moved out of his role, they could have done something where they named Chaim the general manager, president of baseball operations and waiting. The team doesn't have a GM right now. I think Mo took on that title again when they moved on from Gersh in that role. So they've always had this one voice philosophy. They've always been very selective on who's going to be able to talk to the media and what they're allowed to talk about and things like that. So it's a really weird dynamic where, yes, Bloom is overseeing the reset of player development, but at the same time, he doesn't have a technical title with the organization. He won't have that until next year.
He's very skilled when it comes to dealing with the media. The guy has been in Boston. The guy's talked to MLB Network and all those in between, Kevin. The guy knows what he's doing.
He's good.
Just a matter of time. He's very well spoken.
Why people want to hear from him, because he's good.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. That's why everybody wants to hear from him. Kevin, what do you think about, there's a poll running right now that KMOX Sports has going about whether Brendan Donovan is an impact player. Do I have that right?
Yeah.
How is that going right now, Drew? Do we have some results on that? I'd have to look that up and see how that's flowing right now. But I understand that we've had some profane comments on there that you'd be insane to think that he is. Is that true?
Well, it might be true that I'm insane, but the poll is actually in favor of yes. Last I checked, it was 60-40 in favor of
I've got it at 58-42.
Sure.
And the comments, which, you should always be careful and maybe avoid reading the comments when you can. Yeah, one of them who's wearing a clown nose, by the way, said that people voting yes are blanking insane.
Well,
and then
I guess
the other
I'm
one,
insane then.
There's another one that Tommy Edman was, so expect Donovan to be traded.
Well, first of all, like this is the thing. Like, we all have this nostalgia for Tommy Edman. Donovan's a way better player. A way better player. Now, he doesn't run as fast, right? He's not going to play center field, but he's such a better hitter that it's not even a fair comparison between the two of them. So I would say this. It depends on how someone's defining impact player. If you're defining impact player as annual all-star, well, no, he's not that. But I'm saying impact player in that he impacts the game, right? That he is an important player even on a playoff team. So in the last 3 years, there are 13 qualified hitters in baseball with a higher on-base percentage than Brendan Donovan. He is in the same WAR range as guys like Randy Arozarena, as Pete Alonso, guys like that. Not all the same, but they're in that same range where they're within tenths of one another. He's a Gold Glover. How is that not an impact player? I mean, okay, so and again, unless we're defining impact guy only as 30 homer guy or annual all-star, fine. If your definition is that, then he's not that, right? But that's why it wasn't phrased all-star or star or superstar. Impact player is somebody that impacts a team every day. When you're a guy that can win a Gold Glove and play multiple positions and be one of the elite, he's in the top 5% in baseball at getting on base, which is arguably the most important skill a hitter can have, is getting on base a lot. He's an impact player. He's not a star. He's not a franchise player. Those are not all the same thing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I don't like this conversation because I really like Brendan Donovan, and I guess it does, to Kevin's point, it's how you define impact player. I think sometimes we lift Donovan up a lot because of the type of guy he is, the way he goes about playing the game, his leadership abilities, all things that are really important. Like I don't want to sit here and make it sound like I'm denigrating him at all. The overall numbers, I mean, the on base stuff is really good. His OPS is fine. It's always above 750. I think sometimes we lift him up to be this superstar caliber player, and to Kevin's point, that's not what he is. He's a really, really good player, but I don't think he's not that middle of the order guy that you build around. That's all I would say.
I think Cardinals might want you in the arbitration hearing.
Yeah, they don't want me near it.
Bernie, what do you think?
No, I mean, I think he's a really good player, so therefore he's an impact player. I don't know how one defines impact. If the people with the clown noses or whatever are saying that anybody who says he's an impact player is insane. So I guess their definition of an impact player would be Aaron Judge, maybe. Well,
Right.
Juan Soto. No, he's not that. But I think I've come to appreciate his all around skill set a lot over the last. We came to the majors in 2022, so he's had 3 seasons. I mean, Kevin alluded to his on base skill, also his ability to just work counts, take pitches. See, let me backtrack a minute. I think the problem with the people that would vote no on this, they maybe don't have the as much appreciation they should for some of the more subtle skills.
Yes.
These are some of the same people also scream and holler all the time about how I'm just tired of baseball the way it is now. It's nothing but home runs and strikeouts. Well, but yet they'd be the first or among the first to get in line to say, no, he's not an impact player. They'll talk about, well, he doesn't have like great power.
Right.
He doesn't hit for this like incredible batting average. He doesn't steal bases. Well, what does he do? I mean, he works counts. He has one of the lowest strikeout rates in Major League Baseball. He's got a really high walk rate. He works pitchers. He grinds them, makes them work, tires them out. He can play second base, third base, first base, left field, right field, shortstop, and he won a Gold Glove for his versatility defensively. If you look at his career in the majors, he's about 20% above league average offensively overall. And believe me, my friends, you have to accept me on this one. You got to trust me. There's a pretty short list of major league hitters over the last 3 years who have an on-base percentage over 360 and a slugging percentage over 400. And he's on that list. But it's not this like big, dynamic, grandiose thing. Oh my gosh, he hit that ball 453 feet. And that's you almost. This sounds really snotty, and I don't want to, but this is how I feel. You have to have an appreciation of the all-around game to fully appreciate how good he is, and the impact that he delivers. There's a lot of teams that have been calling John Mozeliak the last 3 years, wanting to know if Donovan's available because he's one of those guys. So anyway.
Yeah, and like a 280 batting average, which is his career batting average now, when the league is hitting 220, is a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal. Like people go crazy for Luis Arraez. Donovan's a better player than Luis Arraez. He's not a better pure hitter. He's a better player. He gets on base the same amount, and he's an elite defender, where Arraez is a guy you got to hide. You got to find a place where he might not hurt you defensively. I mean, like, that's what I mean about impact. He's not Bernie, you phrased it perfectly. You do not have to be a superstar to be an impact player. It just means someone that changes games every game regularly, and that's what's impressive to me about Donovan is the consistency. When you're on base 36% of the time in your career, you are constantly impacting your team in a positive way.
You are watching and listening to the Gashouse Gang on KMOX. It's great to be with you. This will be one topic here. We'll go around the horn. First of all, this was totally classy. This is Paul Goldschmidt with his one-page ad in the Post-Dispatch thanking Cardinal Nation. When you flip this is the Sunday Post-Dispatch. When you flip this around, there's a story from Miles Mikolas saying that he owes fans more. Miles has always been in tune with the fan base, Bernie. I remember back in 2018 in his spring training debut with the team, he did not perform very well, he thought, and the crowd gave him a big ovation, kind of saying, pushing him into the season, saying, we're behind you. And he said, well, I appreciate that. Based on my performance, I got to owe him something. Now he's saying it the same thing. Miles wants to have a bounce back in 25.
Listen, I think Miles has some qualities. I mean, there's value in innings. There's value in making 30-plus starts. There's value in – he's kind of a pitcher where it's almost all or nothing, but he actually racks up probably more quality starts than people realize. And, quality starts matter because when a team gets a quality start, they win, depending on the year, they win somewhere between 70 and 73% of those games. But the problem is I'm not sure how he's going to bounce back. And I'm not being mean. I'm just being pragmatic. You look at him the last couple of seasons, his ERA is 5.04. It's like the third worst among qualifying starting pitchers. The other thing about him is that his swing and miss rate among qualifying starting pitchers the last 2 years is depending on how many innings you want to put on it, whether it be 150 innings or a little more than that. But he's got either the worst or the second worst swing and miss rate. He's got the worst or second worst strikeout percentage. And his problem, he has had some bad luck, which people don't want to recognize, but I do, because I want to go where the facts are. I mean, the batting average against him in balls in play is really high. So he has had some bad luck. But on the other hand, the problem he gets, and he's talking to Derek Gould about this, he gets to 2 strike counts and then he can't finish off hitters. Well, he can't finish off hitters because when he was really, really good at his best in 2018, and they didn't know what to make of him. Well, he would get them to chase a lot of 2-strike pitches. Like you go back and look at his chase rate in 2018 and then where it was last year. It's a big drop. They're on to him, so they know he's going to be around the strike zone. And when he goes out of the strike zone, they're like, no, I know his act. I'm not going to chase. I might have done that a few years ago. So I'm not sure how he's going to get these guys out once he gets them down to 2 strikes, because he doesn't have the swing and miss stuff. He doesn't have the strikeout wallop. So where's the fix? Yeah, you're going to try to get him to chase. Some people would recommend that. Well, you don't have to throw him a strike. Okay, you don't. That's true. You don't. If you're ahead in the strike zone, if you're ahead in the count, you don't have to come right back in there. You can waste a couple pitches. You can go off the plate and hope that someone's dumb enough to swing at it. But less and less hitters have been doing that. So I'm not sure where the fix could be. I appreciate his sentiment, and I do believe he's sincere when he talks about he really wants to have a bounce back. Feels like he owes the fans that. That's all good. I think he's a genuine guy, but the stuff that has put him in this downturn are so, what's the word? They're so extreme as to be unfixable. I don't know how else to put it.
Nothing's changed though, too, in that article. We've heard Miles Mikolas talk about the fact that he gets 2 strikes on guys and he's got to figure out a way to get the third. Like and this isn't a shot at Derek Gould at all. I think we all really respect the work that he does, but I read that and it's like, okay, I've read this before. Now, he talked about maybe bringing the curveball back. We've talked on this show about, does he throw too many pitches? So all of a sudden, if you're going to start adding another pitch, which hasn't been all that effective in the first place, I'm not sure if that's it. I think there's a lot of truth to, if he gets 2 strikes on a guy and it's an 0-2 count or a 1-2 count, you don't have to throw something down the middle. Start going outside a little bit, start painting a little bit. If that means you throw more pitches and end up throwing less innings, so be it. But again, that's also, we've heard Miles say, well, maybe I got to throw a few less strikes. So, and he takes so much pride at the same time in being a strike thrower. I think that's a big part of what he talks about. And he basically said in the article that, I'm still always going to throw strikes. So I don't know what the answer is here. I appreciate the fact that he's looking for an answer. I'm not going to sit here and say that there is not an answer. And maybe he figures something out. But I don't know if the story has been progressed any further by what we read in that article, because I feel like this is all things that have been said before.
Said before, but not in the spot where you have no choice. Because I think they're going to bump him from the rotation in season if he's not doing it. And I don't think it's complicated on how you fix him. I'm not saying it's easy to do, because if you look at his fastball characteristics, his velocity is within 2 or 3/10 of a mile an hour to where it was when he first got here. His average fastball is not that much of a change. His average fastball in 2018, 2019 was 93.5, 93.6. It's 93.2 now. So it's not a big loss in velocity. The spin rates are the same. The spin rate right now is the same as it was. I'm only talking 4-seam fastball just because it's an example. Same as it was in 2022 when he had an excellent season. I think eliminating problems like using too many pitches. He is talking about changing how he throws his pitches, right? A different shape on the slider, maybe throwing it a little harder. But the number one thing he has to do, and it was the thing that caught my attention most, I know he said it before, but it's critical. Maybe I'm getting too much of the zone when I'm in an advantage count. Just take out maybe. You are. Right. That's it. You have to sometimes go off the plate when you have a 2-strike count. Now, not in a full count, maybe not in a 2-2 count, but 0-2, 1-2, Where you get chase is by going off the plate, because when you go on the plate, like, look, his stuff has never been big strikeout stuff. And we can go back to 2018 and look at all that stuff. If he was throwing the ball where he was now, if he was locating where he is now, it's getting hit. And when you look at the characteristics, for example, of his slider, which used to be a super effective pitch for him, it's not changed very much. So what does that tell me? It tells me the location is bad. If it's got the same kind of spin and it's the same kind of velocity, it's the same shape, then the difference is command. You got to throw it out. You got to start it in the zone and have it leave the zone instead of throwing everything in the zone. All of these things, by the way, are easier said than done. But to me, the important part was the verbal out loud acknowledgement of that. And if it doesn't change, then his performance won't change. He'll be the same guy he was the last 2 years.
He's just too hittable because he doesn't have swing and miss stuff. He doesn't get
That's right.
He doesn't get whiffs. He doesn't strike people out. The contact rate against him the last 2 years is, I think it was the sixth worst or the sixth highest.
Yeah.
Among major league starting pitchers. So I'm not sure how you dig your way out of that because he's just way, way, way too hittable. I mean, and again, just to back up what I said earlier, in his first year of the Cardinals, where he was exceptional, he could finish fifth in the Cy Young voting. His chase rate was like 32%, and it's been going down and down and down every year. It was like 27% last year. And you say, well, that's only 5%. That's a pretty big difference because you can get guys to swing outside the zone as much as he used to. He doesn't. They're, like I said at the top, they're on to him now. So even if he does throw more non-strikes, it's not going to help him much unless he can get them to chase those strikes. But they are totally on to what he's trying to do, and they're not going to give in by whiffing at stuff off the plate.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only hope. But then there's other thing that was interesting to me when I look at 2022, which was the last time he was just a good pitcher. His changeup now is too hard. His changeup back then was 82 miles an hour. Now it's 85, 86. It's too hard. It's too much like the fastball because his fastball is only low 90s. So there's not a big enough gap. And then when you look at the slider, he's not throwing the slider hard enough. He used to throw it 87, 88 miles an hour. Now it's 86. And that's with the fastball not being different from 2022 in terms of velocity. So his arm speed has not changed. He has not lost that ability. So something in there is fixable. And this is why one of my biggest beefs about the team is they haven't been able to see these things in recent years and make those changes and say, hey, you were doing this in 2022. We got to get you back to that.
The Gashouse gang from KMOX. Before we go, Bernie Mikolas, before we have a final word, tell us about our sponsor, Seliga Heating and Cooling.
As I mentioned earlier, the one, I think the best thing I can say about them in terms of like, if you trust my opinion, and I hope you would, because we've been a Seliga Heating and Cooling family, this independent American Standard dealer, for 16 years. And we've had to call them a bunch of times. We live in an old house built in 1908. Some of the stuff in the house was old. Some things go wrong, and we try to stay on top of it. And we've been able to stay on top of it because Seliga Heating and Cooling, they're excellent at what they do, period. When they say they're going to be at your house at a certain time on a certain day, they're there. They're not going to come in and hustle you, try to upsell you, try to get you to buy something expensive you don't need. They want the trust because that's why they've been around and still growing since 1927. That Seliga family name means a lot. So you don't have to worry about them fast talking you into something. In our experience, for 16 years, they go out of their way to try to find solutions that save us money. They'll tell us, no, you don't need a new boiler. You got a good 2 or 3 years left in this boiler. And we'll come out as part of this Priority Club maintenance program. We'll come out, 2 times a year and we'll check on it. We'll make sure everything's working well. Then we'll catch it when it's time to be replaced. But you don't need to spend that money now. So the professionalism, the class, the integrity, all of that, the highest marks. And I think a lot of St. Louis families would agree because, again, they've been around since 1927. Also, that American Standard equipment is second to none. So look into becoming a member of that Priority Club, that maintenance program I just talked about. Plus, there's financing options available for anything subject to credit approval. But go to SeligaHeatingandCooling.com to see all the info, including the phone number, SeligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thanks.
All right, Bernie, thanks very much. Thanks to our sponsors, and we will be back tomorrow. We do this every single day during the week at noon on the KMOX Sports YouTube page, and Bernie is posting videos like crazy at the Bernie Show on YouTube, so that's an absolute must as well. We are growing each and every day on the Gashouse Gang, which is very exciting. We replay this on KMOX at night, usually about 8 o'clock. Tonight we have the SLU Coaches Show, and I'll be at Humphreys in Midtown, and then we'll follow that with the Gashouse Gang. And if you already know that, that means you just heard us on replay. So congratulations. Matt will be before that with Sports Open Line. Kevin's got the DGS this afternoon. Boys, it has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Tommy.
Good time, boys.
Thanks to our producer, Drew Young. We will see you tomorrow.